This slide explains that the PMP exam is not about remembering definitions. Instead, each question checks how you think and make decisions as a project manager. The key to scoring high is identify what type of situation the question is describing: conflict, risk, change request, stakeholder issue, team issue, etc. Select the PMI-aligned action. What PMI expects a professional project manager to do in that situation? So, the strategy is not memory. It is recognizing the pattern and choosing the right project management behavior. This slide tells you how PMP exam questions are designed. PMP questions are not direct or theory-based, they are real-life scenarios. PMI wants to see how you think like a project manager, how you handle conflicts, risks, changes, and stakeholders. Whether you choose the option that reflects PMI's best practice, not personal experience. Even if the answers look correct, only one matches PMI mindset. You'll also see repeated keywords like conflict, change request, stakeholder issues, new risks, or customer feedback. These keywords help you quickly identify the situation. Your job in the exam is simple: understand the context first, then select the best PMI-style response. This slide gives you the golden rule for answering PMP questions when you feel confused between options. PMI expects a project manager to choose actions that encourage team collaboration, keep focus on customer and stakeholder value, prevent problems early instead of reacting late, follow proper project processes like logs, plans, and governance, show servant leadership and trust the team's autonomy. These are always the PMI-style good choices, and PMI never supports actions that hide, delay, or avoid communication, postpone issues instead of addressing them, blame people, micromanage the team, ignore documentation, or skip formal processes. So, whenever you're stuck, remember, choose collaboration, communication, prevention, and process. Avoid blame, delay, micromanagement, and shortcuts. This slide explains the 4 main patterns that PMP exam questions are based on. If you can identify which pattern the question belongs to, selecting the right answer becomes much easier. Stakeholder management. These questions check how well you communicate and align expectations. Keywords usually include upset stakeholder, conflicts, or misunderstanding. Change control. These questions test your ability to manage scope properly. A common keyword is customer asking for a new feature or scope change. Risk and issue. These test whether you are proactive or reactive. Keywords include potential problem, unexpected issue, or risk emerging. Team leadership. These questions focus on teamwork, conflict, and motivation. Keywords include team disagreement, low morale, or conflict in the team. So the strategy is first recognize the question type. Then choose the PMI-aligned response for that situation. This slide shows the PMI best action rule, meaning what PMI expects you to do in common exam scenarios. PMI wants you to always choose the professional, process-based, and collaborative action. Let's break down each scenario. Stakeholder conflict. The best action is communicate and facilitate alignment. PMI never supports ignoring the conflict or escalating immediately requested change. Follow the formal change process, log the change, analyze impact, send to CCB for approval. Never implement the change directly. New risk identified, add it to the risk register. Assign a risk owner, create a mitigation or response plan. This shows proactive project management. Team conflict, coach the team, encourage collaboration. Do not escalate unless necessary. PMI promotes servant leadership. Requirement unclear, go back to the product owner or customer for clarification. PMI expects confirmation before proceeding. So overall, always choose communication, process, prevention, and stakeholder alignment. This is an example of a stakeholder conflict question. A stakeholder is unhappy because their feature was not included. PMI wants the project manager to choose an action that is collaborative and transparent, not defensive, not blaming, and not escalating immediately. Let's look at the options. Option A, telling the stakeholder the priority is fixed, shuts down conversation, not PMI aligned. Option B, escalating to the sponsor is too strong for a normal conflict. Option D, adding the feature directly breaks process and scope control. So the best PMI answer is option C, review the backlog and discuss prioritization with the stakeholder. This promotes communication, alignment, and transparency, which is exactly what PMI expects. This example is a change request question. The customer is asking for a new reporting feature and PMI wants us to follow the formal change management process. The correct sequence is always record the change request, analyze the impact, cost, time, scope, quality, risks, present it to the Change Control Board (CCB) for approval. The project manager cannot approve or reject the change directly. Also, never approve the change on the spot. Reject the change personally. Give a verbal yes or we will try, because PMI expects a structured, documented, and controlled approach to changes. So the rule is process first, decision later, always through the CCB. This slide explains how to identify whether a PMP question is about a risk or an issue. PMI uses very simple keywords. If the question says could happen, might occur, or possible problem, it is a risk future event. If the question says has happened, already occurred, or problem just happened, it is an issue present, actual problem. Once you identify which one it is, your action becomes clear. For risk, add to the risk register. Assign a risk owner. Plan a risk response, avoid, mitigate, transfer, accept. For issue, follow the issue resolution process. Fix it using escalation paths if needed. The PMP exam tests whether you can recognize this difference quickly. So remember, risk equals future, issue equals already happened. This case study shows how to handle a change request inside an ongoing sprint. The customer gives new UI feedback that changes the design. PMI expects a structured, transparent approach, not quick reactions. So the best sequence is document the change. Capture the request formally, no verbal commitments. Analyze schedule, cost, and quality impact. Understand how this change affects the project before deciding anything. Present findings to the product owner or CCB. They decide whether to approve or reject the change, not the project manager alone. Reprioritize the backlog. If approved, update the backlog and future sprints accordingly. This approach reflects PMI's mindset. Transparent decision-making is more important than reacting fast. This slide summarizes the key skills you need to answer PMP exam scenario questions confidently. Recognize scenario type. First, identify whether the question is about a stakeholder issue, a risk, a change request, or a team problem. Once you know the category, choosing the right PMI action becomes easier. Apply PMI mindset. PMI always prefers collaboration, transparency, and preventive thinking. Avoid defensive or reactive behavior. Use formal process. Always follow logs, plans, governance, CCB, backlog prioritization. Never skip process steps. Formal processes show maturity and control. Avoid panic decisions. Never commit too quickly. Never escalate too early, and never promise without analysis. Slow, structured decision-making wins over quick reactions. So the recap is simple. Understand the scenario, use PMI mindset, follow process, stay calm and structured.